Good day to you and welcome back if you've been here before. If you haven't been here before, a quick introduction. My name is Jordan. I am an amateur automotive photographer based in the UK. So if you like automotive content, motorsport, static cars, that sort of thing, this is the right place to be. So if I could ask you very politely before you start, if you want to see more of that sort of content, drop me a follow, drop me a subscribe. Is it subscribe? Yeah, we're on YouTube. Drop me a subscribe on YouTube to see more of my content. So the motorsport season, whilst it has well and truly kicked off with some rally events, some events abroad, we're kind of slowly getting into the British season. And for a lot of you, I would think that means the first event of your year is going to be coming up. If it is your first event of the season coming up, what are you going to? Let me know what you're going to in the comment section. It'd be cool to see other photographers that have watched my content out and about at the racetrack. I think my next one is going to be the TCR test day over at Donington Park. Anyway, I digress. So it's the first event of the year. I'm going to just make sure, have you done these very important things before you start off? I recommend saving this one for later because you could really use this as a solid checklist for before you actually go to a racetrack. So starting off at number 1, have you charged up all of your batteries and made sure that you haven't left them on charge somewhere in your house before leaving? When it comes to all of the things that I'm going to be talking about today, these are all things that I have had to learn the hard way. Very early on when I started photography, I went out to take my camera out. I'd got all the way there, turned the camera on, and take a photo, and just nothing's happened. Checked the battery compartment, noticed that my camera was feeling very, very light, and realised that this thing was left on charge back at home. One of the most frustrating and daft things that I've personally ever done, and you could probably ever do in your photography, and especially if you've only got one battery, this is a proper schoolboy, schoolgirl error. So please make sure before you head out that day, get all your batteries charged, like all of them, even if you think, oh well, one of them's got some charge in it, so that should be fine. No, just charge the whole thing up and make sure you take them off charge, pack them in your bag, even put one in your camera straight away, so then that way you can absolutely guarantee that all your batteries are charged. Moving swiftly onwards, and another one that, again, like I said, I've done before, and that is to format all of your SD cards. So I want to rewind when I went back to Snetterton last year to shoot an MX5 event. I was very much excited to shoot on a newish Canon 1DX for me, but it wasn't obviously new. I bought it used like I do most of my cameras, and turned on the camera, took a few frames, and then it said SD card full. And I thought, well, that's okay, I'll just format the whole card again. However, I'd already taken a solid batch of images from that particular event. So by formatting it and deleting it really, really quickly, I would have essentially had to get rid of all of what I'd already taken that day. And before you say, oh, well, you could just go through and delete them, funnily enough, I actually hadn't uploaded the previous week's shoot onto my computer yet. So all of the photos that I would have taken from this week and the previous week, by formatting them, would have been just simply lost. This was a real doo-doo. That's probably a real daft one. And you think, oh, well, of course, why don't you have spare SD cards? Well, on the 1DX, it has a CF card, and due to money reasons, I only had one. In fact, I've still only got one. It's just like a massive CF card. And the 1DX, it takes only an 18 megapixel, so I can get about 7,000, 8,000 photos out of that one card. Which brings me on to another good thing is have spares. I've got this small little pouch just here, and it's got multiple SD cards, and I can get CF cards in there as well. Just pack multiple. I watched a video of Jamie Price's not too long ago, and what he would do, and something that I just recently started doing is, despite the SD card not being full, he would take it out and put a new one in just so he could guarantee that he already had a good bank of photos already to go and edit. So that's something I recommend on the topic of the SD card, CF card thing is, firstly, format it the night before you go away. Make sure all the images that you've extracted off that camera are ready and they're back on your computer, so you can start off with a clean slate. And then secondly, like I said, make sure you've got multiple SD cards. So let's say, for example, you've lost your SD card or it's fallen out or something like that. You've already got like a good bank of images to go from. So having multiple is very good. The next thing that you want to do is to make sure that you have cleaned your lenses. In terms of cleaning them, just a simple like optical wipe. You can get Glasses lens cleaner. They'll be perfectly fine for the lenses. I also use the rocket blower thing. So if you throughout the day you get a bit of dust on it, just use that. It should get it out. Getting those lenses clean is going to be super important. It means you won't have any small like blemishes on the actual lens when you're taking photos. You won't have any small dots all dotted around the camera. You won't have any small dots, any things obstructing the camera. You'll notice it, especially when you're shooting at a slower shutter speed for panning, is because of that wider aperture that you'd go for. You will find that the camera is able to pick up far more of what's going on that's actually on the camera, so that way you will find that dust will appear on the lens. Making sure that your lens is cleared means that when you are shooting slow, when you are going lower shutter speeds, and you have obviously to counteract the slow shutter speed with all the light coming in, you widen the aperture, you will then have a nice clean lens. But yeah, these are fairly cheap. Get yourself a rocket blower. You can get you can even get the lens wipes that I can't remember the company that does them, or just a little spray bottle and give it a wipe. Highly recommend. But very important to do this whilst you're at home and in a clean and safer environment than whilst you're literally next door to the track where there's lots of things going on, things blowing around, lots of dirt, etc. The next one in terms of cleaning, which is also very, very important, is to clean the actual sensor of your camera. I do it myself. I've got a little K&F lens cleaning or sensor cleaning kit, sorry. Very important, because similar to the lenses, this will catch a lot of dirt on it, a lot of dust, a lot of crumbs or whatever onto your sensor. Well, hopefully not, but my ones have certainly over time where you're changing lenses picked up a bit of dust along the way. Doing a sensor clean is going to make sure that your image quality does increase, because you're not going to have those dust specks, the particles on there. I'll show you some examples of some photos briefly of where I haven't previously done this, and then the dust and the specks and the mud or whatever, they all appear in the photo. Like I previously mentioned, these specks of dirt will be so small and you probably won't see them when you're shooting normally. When you lower the shutter speed, and then you have to counterbalance that by shooting at a higher aperture or a wider aperture, you will then start to see that these dust particles appear. So you've got the option to either clean it yourself, which I do, or probably the best thing to do, I would say, is just to take your camera to a camera shop if you've got one near you and just get the sensor professionally cleaned. I don't have any mirrorless cameras, but from what I hear, the real best thing to do is just take them to a professional cleaner. Honestly, it is nothing more annoying than when you picked up a really good shot, or you're taking a really good shot, and when you're going through it, you can't see it on the actual LCD of the screen because it's quite small, but you put it on your computer and you can just see little dots everywhere, all over the camera, all over the picture. It's super annoying. Okay, the final thing that you need to remember to do before you head out this season or before you head out on a race is to make sure that your lenses are calibrated. So calibrating your lenses to your camera essentially means that they are going to work very much as one. If you haven't had your lenses calibrated, well, I'm speaking to people on DSLRs because from what I hear, the mirrorless team, you don't need to worry about this, but for DSLRs, it is important to make sure that your lenses are calibrated to your camera. The best way to figure out if your lenses are not calibrated is like my lenses, or how they were, is that if you're trying to focus on a subject with the autofocus, and the autofocus will look like it's focused on it, and then when you look on the image, that particular part of the image is actually blurry, let's say the car, and then something randomly over in the corner of the photo is very, very much in focus. Essentially, the lens and the camera aren't working well together, and the autofocusing, and I think possibly the manual focusing, it's just not working right, and it needs to be looked at. You can adjust this yourself, you can change it yourself. There's lots of videos on YouTube that will show you exactly how to do that. I have done it myself. However, like I said in the previous mention on the sensor cleaning, take it to a professional if you're not really sure what you're doing. It will just be a lot easier. I mean, it'll be more expensive, but it's just a lot easier having someone that's probably does it every single day instead of having like us do it who've never done it before. It's going to be, I think if you haven't had the calibration done, and if they're not working together in sync, it's going to be one of the most frustrating things ever. So when you go back and look through your photos and you realise that actually so many of them are out of focus, and the likelihood is it's not because of your actual ability as a photographer. It is more than likely that the camera and lenses are not quite working together. But it's an easy fix. So let's once again go through that checklist, and this is where it's important to save it, because you never know how many times that you might need to do this across the year. So 1, have you charged your batteries? Number 2, have you formatted your SD card? 3, have you cleaned your lenses? 4, have you cleaned your sensor? And number 5, are your lenses and camera calibrated to each other? If you can tick off all those things, then I think you're well on your way. If you enjoyed this video, I'd love to know what you thought of it, and if there's anything else that I've missed off that you think is super important to do before you head out to a racetrack as a photographer or videographer, pop it down below for us. And if you like the content and you want to see some more, like I said, please don't forget to subscribe. I thank you very much for watching this video today. I'll see you next time.